Aloha, everyone, in another level living land. Welcome to another episode of Freedom Fridays. So happy that you're here today because we're in for a treat. Our amazing coach, Luke Benoit, is back to talk about part 2 of overcoming addictive relationships. If you didn't get a chance to look at part 1, I'll make sure to put the link in the chat, but you're definitely going to want to go back because it was oh so good. Okay, so what are we doing here? What is Freedom Fridays all about? It's all about supporting you as the entrepreneur in achieving success in business and life harmony, because it really is two sides of the same coin. We never want to get so busy making a living that we forget to make a life. And it is possible to work smarter, not harder, create time, money, and in love and emotional freedom, stress less, strengthen our relationships, and lead with much more energy, ease, momentum. You know, it really is all about relationships. It's all about love and money and your ability to receive your prosperity, step into your calling, and unleash your greatness with ease. So if you want to know more about that, make sure you like our channel and subscribe to us, so therefore you can get the active updates when we're going live with our Freedom Friday show. So let's get into it. I want y'all to give our amazing guest speaker today a warm, another level living welcome. Coach Luke, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, it's nice to be here. Always nice to be with you.
Likewise. I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this man has so much wisdom when it comes to relationships, when it comes to understanding. He can be able to support you in breaking free from any depression or anxiety. Just a wealth of wisdom. So we're in for a treat today on what he has to share with us. So Luke, tell us, our first conversation was so amazing, and I know that this one's going to go even deeper. But tell me, can you tell us first, what led to you doing this work? Like, what led to like really being able to dive in and share this work with us?
I had a life of many addictive relationships and many struggles. And that is what brought me into this work. I got a lot of help, a lot of treatment, and a lot of education on this topic. And it allowed me to go out and work with other people who were struggling with these things. So this is real.
Oh,
The pain is real.
the pain is real, and we can break free from it.
That's true. But it's like work, there's work to be done.
Yes, I agree. And so can you give us a little bit of a recap of like first of all, what are these addictive relationships, and why do we need to be able to understand how to really be able to break free and heal from them?
Well, Pia Melody, who is the kind of premier expert on addictive relationships, says it's about, I can't live with him and I can't live without him. And she even makes this thing of this like bunny rabbits chasing each other. Do 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 do. She goes like that, back and forth, and it's a lot of drama. The kids get lost in the process. It's painful for everybody, and we need to get underneath what's going on with these relationships.
Awesome. Yes, because if we don't, then it impacts the kids, it impacts society. It just continues to go on and on like this horrible.
You could lose your whole life at this and get totally sidetracked.
Okay. So tell us, from big picture, what are these addictive relationships?
Well, let me tell you this story. This is a favorite story of mine. You probably heard it before. I always tell it a lot when I teach, but I think it's such a good story. It goes, once upon a time, there was a blizzard outside, and there was snow and ice. And there was this woman, and she was safe and warm in her cabin. She didn't need anybody. And then she heard something at the door. There was sort of like a rustling, and she didn't know what it was. So she went out and she opened the door and she looked down, and there, half frozen to death, was this snake. And the snake could talk, and it said to her, "Oh, kind lady, will you please take pity on me? For if you don't take me in, I will surely die." And she was a soft, kind-hearted woman, you know? So she bent down, she picked up the snake, she brought it into the house, she laid it by the fire. She gave it what it needed. And as the snake got better, it reached out and struck her and bit her. And then, as she could feel the poison coursing through her veins, she said to the snake, "How could you do this to me? I brought you in, I saved you, I warmed you by the fire." And the snake said to her, "Well, you knew I was a snake when you took me in." And that is an encapsulation of addictive relationships many, many times. So point number one is, they're in front of me. They're showing me everything I need to see about them, but I have an agenda that does not match what they're showing me. So I overlook what they're showing me and I see what's lovable. And that's how we get connected in these relationships. And it's only later that the masks fall off and we see the other person for who they really are. Now, we talked about that a bit in the review of the video that's on my YouTube channel for Addictive Relationships 1. The Addictive Relationships 2 video talks about, where do these people come from? And that is a way to get underneath this, okay? So we have these two people. We actually have a third person too, who doesn't really play much part in this because they don't have any problems. They were raised by healthy parents who gave them what they needed. They fostered their self-esteem. It was a loving environment. There was no mind games going on. And if only these other two people had had that, this story wouldn't even be taking place. But on the one hand, we have the person that, you know, traditionally we're going to say the female in the relationship, who is maybe they would call her the love addict or very needy. And she learned some lessons growing up that really screw her over later in life. Okay. What she learns is that, you know, her parents are going to leave her. So love means you gonna leave me. So that's what I'm drawn to. They call that the back walking away. I'm drawn to the back walking away. Okay. Love is not really love. Love is, I beg you for love and you don't give it to me and I chase after you. And that's very painful for this woman. On the other side, stereotypically, she has met this man who has been overburdened and used his entire life, usually from childhood. And the last thing he wants is some needy ass person hanging on him. But that's what he always attracts. He grows up having to like take care of the parents. Maybe there's an alcoholic parent or an absent parent. He has to be the substitute parent, sometimes take care of the younger kids. In that stress, he may go out and develop an addiction, alcoholism, very tough. But when he's taking care of the mother and the family, he feels good and he has self-esteem, but he's overburdened and he can't take that. So he has to check out and go down to the school parking lot, smoke some dope with his friends, get a break. But when he does that, he feels extremely, extremely guilty. So he goes back and he caretakes some more. And this is his pattern, in and out and in and out. And when he meets this lady, she has that neediness and he starts taking care of her, and it becomes that in and out and in and out again. And when he goes out, it triggers her trauma and she's hitting the ceiling. So this structure, if we could get that this goes on and teach this in like 6th grade, how different our world would be. You know, if I knew what was really going on inside me, if I could ask myself, is this what I really want? Or do I want something better? Is there a way for me to outgrow this? So the successful couple is going to be able to come together and work through these pieces as a couple, which will be very hard, and they may get through it. Or it may not work, and they may move on to the next relationship to repeat it until they do get the lessons. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And wow, that's such an amazing, profound way that you shared the story and how it connected, and then how you describe the relationship and how that there's this option. Either they can come together and do the hard work, or it can be trickled into another pattern in a new relationship. So how do we break this cycle, or
Well,
how do we heal?
it's really tough because this avoidant guy, okay, and there's a good video on my YouTube channel called The Avoidant that's all about this.
Okay.
The avoidant guy goes away, and a lot of times he just don't want to come back. It's not in his best interest to come back and go back into that pattern. He's happy to be alone. So the great initial challenge is reaching this person and getting them to plug in and commit to the process. Often it's just not going to happen, which means if she ends up alone, we're going to have to support her through that grief process. And we're going to have to teach her how to find somebody who isn't like that. Because with her, that's what love is. That's what love looks like. That's what she's drawn to. Someone healthy looks boring, not interesting. She don't want that. There's no drama, there's no skyrockets. She wants the drama and skyrockets. But when you're living on the edge, they just might one day slam the door on you and leave, and potentially never come back to you again.
Wow.
Yeah,
So good, because uh one of the things that happens, especially with these patterns, you're highlighting that we can attract similar person, similar pattern until we change us internally and
that's
doing
right.
that work. So
That's
creating a
where the
new
work,
pattern. Does that
that's where the work is right there.
Okay. Okay. And so what are your thoughts or tips on how to be able to, start that progress of being able to interrupt and change the pattern?
Well, really simple. One of the best things to do for the woman in this relationship, we'll call her the love addict or the needy partner, she needs to go to Al Anon. Al Anon is a 12-step program. It's for anybody who's had family members with an alcohol addiction, friends with an alcohol addiction, partner with an alcohol or drug addiction. Pretty much I don't know anybody who doesn't fit that profile today, you know, and you go there and they teach you about boundaries. They teach you how to stop chasing. They teach you how to be in yourself and find your center and get your self-esteem. It's an interesting and powerful process. It's unlike the other 12-step programs where you go into a 12-step program, there's a lot of activity happens, a lot of work, a lot of focus. Whereas in Al-Anon, you're there and you're almost learning by osmosis. Like you come and you listen and you see what other people have been through. And as you start coming, you say, this is not for me. I'm not like these goddamn people. This isn't me. And they tell you, honey, you just keep coming back and you keep going
Okay.
anyway. And then you catch it and you realize, oh my God, this is me. I can't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a
Okay.
powerful help. It's a powerful help.
Okay. So Al-Anon, everyone who's listening, that's the first step. Now, the other question I have for you is how does this impact other areas of life, especially, we're talking about entrepreneurship, especially business. How does this impact that?
Okay, well, first impact is about how intensely is this love addict person impacted. If they're really impacted so badly, they may end up in a treatment center, kind of having to be put back together. It's hard for this person to work because, they feel like their whole life has fallen apart and shattered. So just to keep up and show up and go to work is a great, great task for them. On the other hand, the avoidant, they don't give a shit about anything. Nothing's bothering them. Nothing's touching them. Their work is just fine. They're moving forward. They're hooking up with someone new or two or three someone's new. And, tra la 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 la, they got the easy road.
Wow, that's so good. Because one of the things that we talk about in entrepreneurship is how our business is an extension of all that we are. So if
Oh,
there's
that's so true here.
craziness that's going on, then it prevents us from fully showing up, from being consistent, from staying focused and making
That
an
is the
impact.
story. That is the story. Absolutely. That is the story.
And if we don't break free from these things, then it prevents the people that we're called to be of service to, right?
That's right.
Okay. So, anything else, any other things that you can be able to share to help us kind of better understand this dynamic. So you did mention, I guess for the people who hang on to hope, right? Uh, and that's what
It
happens.
can be done. This relationship can be mended with a lot of commitment on and work on both sides.
Nice.
The avoidant very often doesn't want to do it, but sometimes they will. Maybe if they're so worn down by life that they just can't take another step, they may engage and stay.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And so, if that is the case, then it requires a lot of work and commitment on both sides. Like,
Yeah, we're going into some serious couples work,
gotcha.
and we're going to deal with the trauma. Like if a couple like this comes to me, we're going to have to deal with their trauma. There's going to be a lot of EFT tapping that's going to happen to release that trauma, to release the programming they have about relationships, to release the programming they have about this other person so they can be free in this relationship.
And usually, how long does it take for them to have this or to work with you if they're committed to?
Success is gonna take a while. It's gonna take quite a while.
See, because a lot of times we think that the success has to be so quick or one session. It tends to be
Oh no,
overall. It's a miracle we're resolved.
Yeah, no, this isn't that kind of party.
Well, what would you tell people who feel like, especially sometimes the avoidant can think, oh, I don't need help. We don't need to do this work.
Yeah, well, they should watch the video on avoidance and see themselves, okay? Also, there's always this danger, and we talked about it a little bit, of the trapeze effect, where you're in the relationship, it's hard, you spot some poor little fool on the outskirts, you trapeze over to them and start a new relationship, and now the cycle starts all over again. That is a very common way to escape, and people do it a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was so good, Luke. Seriously. What is a big takeaway that you would like to be able to share to support us in moving forward? Actually, before you do that, how else? Because I think this is something crucial. I feel like these are such a common relationship. And
Yeah, they are.
also,
It's normal. This is more normal in our society than a regular relationship.
so everyone who's hearing this is a common situation. This is a common circumstance. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to ask you first, how else does it impact our moving forward, our business, our impact, and even when it comes to receiving? I know that like a lot of times I hear this difficulty, oh, I can give, but then there's this difficulty in receiving.
You know, first thing we want to look at, I mentioned this before, the children have been neglected. And we have set them up by modeling, like we were talking about before, modeling behaviors for them, showing them what a relationship is. So then they grow up and they repeat the pattern that we had, which is very scary and very preventable. Okay. The other thing is, people can come out of these relationships and they can feel very broken and depressed, and they may need clinical help to get past that. To be able to receive, like you're talking about, I have to have a degree of wholeness going on with me that can allow that to happen. And if I'm just broken, I can't do it.
That's so good. You know, one of the things that, and you're also a practitioner of NLP, and it talks about all of the procedures lead to wholeness, you know, so this is what you're working on, helping them become whole. So therefore they can really stand in their power and be everything that they've been called to be and do everything that they've been called to do and have everything that they've been called to have.
You
From
know, the method that I really love the most is the EFT or faster EFT model,
okay.
which helps us go into the trauma and discharge it and helps with the depression and the anxiety. It's deep, it's very fast, it's powerful.
Oh, I like that.
Usually when we're doing that kind of work, we'll have the two clients together and then we'll separate them. And we'll do
Mm.
that tapping work, that trauma work with one and get that cleaned up. Then we'll do that same kind of work with the second one and get that cleaned up. And then we'll bring them back together and try to get them to dialogue from their more true selves.
Oh, I love that. The true self, the core of who you are. It's like the peeling back the layers of the onion. So
It is.
therefore it can come back together with transparency and authenticity and rebuilding trust. And wow, that's
A
so
lot of this is covered on my website, and I just had a website overhaul so that people can now like press a button and immediately text me or email me. My email is always, my website's always the same. It's just lucbenoit.com. A lot of my videos are collected there that will be helpful for this topic that we're talking about today. And the others are on the YouTube channel. That always confuses me, but it's Luc Benoit Life Coach and it's on YouTube.
okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from himself, from Luc Benoit himself. Go to lucbenoit.com. Also, check out his YouTube channel. So, therefore, you can really be able to dive into this because, really, you know, we have a 3-step model here. We talk about leaning in, and then being able to let go to really be able to leap forward, regardless of what the outcome or possibility can be. And if we don't break free from understanding these things that wounded us, we can actually bleed all over people who don't deserve it. So
Right.
it's interesting. I'll share with you that my daughter, so I do vision boards, and she pulled off one of these little tabs. I don't know if you can see it, the light. It says season. And
Yeah.
what came to me is, what season are you in? You know, if we continue to run the same patterns, we're going to get the same results. And the question is, what do we want instead? Right?
Right.
The one thing that comes to me is that there's this little girl, she's holding on to this little teddy bear so tight, right? This little teddy bear is all that she knows, all that
Yeah.
she's ever experienced in her entire world. And then here's God with his hand out, and he's saying, give me the teddy bear. And what she doesn't see is that behind him is this big old huge teddy bear, bigger and more amazing than she could ever imagine. So if we were able to just let him go and trust and allow him to give us the big teddy bear, like, how amazing will life be? We don't have to have a great past to have a great future. All right, Luke, tell us, what's your biggest takeaway? What's the one thing that you want to leave us with? Thanks so much for blessing our stage today with this wisdom.
Well, I really like what you were saying about lean in. And I think that can be the hardest part of the process because that requires the letting go and the entering of the grief process. But hearing this material again today, which I hear it all the time and it always resonates with me, is how much this has to do with what happened in our early childhood and how we were parented. It's so hard to believe that that could create my attractions, who I should love, who I think I should match up with. That doesn't seem logical to me, but it is 100% true.
Wow. So, a lot of times we don't even realize that even the littlest, the slightest significant emotional event in our life when we're
Oh
in
yeah,
childhood can
the
make a
smaller we
huge
are, the smaller we are, birth to 5 years old, you're completely defenseless and you absorb everything like a sponge and you believe it's true. And by age 7, your belief systems about the world and life are about 80% formed. Those years of being small are crucial.
So I guess one of the things that's another question. I know we're coming close to time, but the other question that I had for you is, so this is how the situation could be, right? So that we talked about these addictive relationships. What, from your perspective, is the definition of a healthy relationship? What's going on there? So we can be able to paint this picture of what it should be.
I think the people in the healthy relationship have a lot of wholeness. They have also a lot of independence from each other, so they're not on top of each other all the time. I think they're able to identify and express and share their feelings. They have communication tools on board that are going to involve a lot of I statements, and they're able to set functional boundaries with each other that can keep them safe and yet let the person in very close when it's time.
That's so good. That's so good. So, those of you who are listening who may have been having these struggles with addictive relationships, you now have a picture of what a healthy relationship is. So if there's any differences or gaps between what you're experiencing now versus what a healthy relationship is, then you definitely want to be able to take action and reach out to Luke or someone to be able to support you in really being able to break free, because everyone, let me just repeat this. Everyone deserves healthy, happy, and whole relationships, and to be healthy and happy, whole within themselves. Wow. Luke, this was absolutely amazing. Thank you again for blessing us with your presence and your grace today. And everyone who's listening, make sure you digest this, because the question is, what is the cost of things staying the same?
What a question. Oh my God.
That's right.
Oh.
That's right. All right, everyone, put your comments in the link below. Tell us what's your biggest takeaway is. We want to hear back from you, on
Any questions we can answer too.
Awesome.
Any questions we can answer.
Any questions we can answer, put that in there as well. And we look forward to seeing you. Make sure you go to Luke's website, take a look at his YouTube videos. This is just the beginning of the beautiful prosperity for all. We're called for amazing things. And this is our season. That's why she pulled this off today. It's our season to really be able to step into all that we're called to be, do, and have. Love and appreciate you all so much. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of Freedom Fridays next week. Peace.
Great to